Welcome, amazing agents and investors from across the country, and happy Halloween. When this is over, we hope this will be your first treat of the holiday. Hope you'll enjoy this call. We got a great turnout today, guys. We have 4 people in the queue already. We usually leave the queue open until about 30 minutes after, and then depending on how many people are in there, we'll close it out just to make sure we get to everyone. So don't be shy. There's nothing that is, we don't censor you in these calls. If you have a compliment, criticism, complaint, we especially love wins and success stories. We had a incredible one last week, and I wanted to thank our winner of the week, Dennis Malonis. Dennis been with us 3 years, and he just kind of quietly has done a lot of business, so we never realized how much. He had shared with us that he kind of apologized that he has only done 30 deals in the last 3 years for a total of about $210,000 in income. So not too bad. And he's done extremely well with the letters, and when he makes the calls, he does well with them also. So we love stories like that, and Dennis was real humble about it, but we very much appreciate you guys that step in. Don't ever look at it like you're bragging. Look at it like how many, we've got 100 and some people on this call. How many of them will you inspire, by sharing your success? So I talked long enough. We got 5 in the queue. Chad, anything you want to say to get started before we get started? You there, Chad?
Be quiet.
Yeah, I want to be quiet. How about you, Tim?
I was on mute. I don't have anything to share. Let's roll.
All right, let's roll, guys. First up in the queue is phone number ending in 2179. You're up first.
Yes, I'm just calling because I'm interested in joining, and Natalie said that I should come to the Mastermind today. Mike McCaffrey of M&P Restoration with Patty Lombard.
Oh, awesome. Well, Mike, you probably could talk us into joining. We appreciate it. What I will do is right after this call, our whole staff comes on these calls, including our sales team. So right after this call, you want me to have somebody reach out to you at the 315 number?
No, I already talked to Natalie. She said that if I got on the Mastermind, I could find out how things work.
Hey, can you get a little closer to the phone?
Sure. Natalie said that if we got on the Mastermind, then we would understand more about all the leads. So that's why we're here today.
All right. Well, I'm sure she gave you the rundown of the system, what's included, how it works, and the pricing. But do you have any? You're welcome to listen. But do you have any specific questions for us that the whole group might be able to benefit from, or do you want to just listen?
I can just listen this time.
All right. Well, welcome to your first call. We appreciate you being here. All right. Next up is phone number ending in 7976. You're up next.
It's Renee, of course. How are you guys?
Of course. Welcome. Excellent. Happy Halloween.
Thank you. Happy Halloween as well. I have a question that's more of a kind of a pondering thought, but I'm going to throw it out there. So I'm on a coaching mastermind for just general real estate in the morning, and several of the people had gone to the Zillow event in Las Vegas, and they're really changing up what they're doing. Excuse me. But this is more of, have you guys seen any of your other clients be affected by any iBuyer situation in the probate arena? And so that's the question. And then what I'm thinking is that it's so online related, obviously Zillow, right, but just general online related, that going to the doors is going to be more effective moving forward. Not giving up the phones, because we're very niched here, but I'm just trying to see how this mammoth application is going to potentially hit this niche. Maybe not this year, but just thinking in the future, if you guys are masterminding this conversation. So anyway, just food for thought.
Sure. So if anybody who's on this call is not familiar with iBuyers, you should probably read the news every once in a while. But it's the kind of the term that Brad Edmond has coined for any of the institutional buyers that are competing with us now in the brokerage space and the investment space, basically bringing venture capital in and using the used car dealership model. Don't like your house, trade it into us at a wholesale value and go ahead and move on to your next new property. So there's been a big impact, Renee, and the biggest impact is it shows like the people who have been following what we teach, it creates a great contrast for us. And Dave Pinnell is one of the case studies that we did. He's competing with all of the iBuyers in Fort Worth, Texas, in addition to 21,000 realtors and 8,000 investors. And he's actually buying 60% of his deals end up being wholesale deals. And he's averaging about 55 cents on the dollar. The iBuyers are offering 80 to 90 cents on the dollar. So he's finding that they actually help him. He finds it easier to wholesale in the environment, in the iBuyer environment, than he did when he didn't have them competing, because now they have something to contrast. Like, so they see his offer, they look him in the eye, and they build a relationship, and he builds rapport, and they trust him. And then some 20-year-old with an iPad runs in representing the institutional buyer, and all of a sudden David looks even better, right? Because he built a real relationship with the seller. So he's able to undercut them. You know, they're offering 80 cents on the dollar and all the, you know, have all this beautiful marketing and tons of online spend. David's looking them in the eye and showing up and offering 55 cents on the dollar. Actually, he offers them multiple options, and then they self-select down into that. He lets them choose how they're going to do business. So the iBuyers it will force innovation. There's a lot of negative talk about how bad it is and how evil they are. And the reality is, you know, if you're valuable to the consumer, you already have a solution for brokerage. You already have a solution for cash buyers. Like, you provide those options. You should also fold in creative financing. iBuyers aren't going to do that. So it's not going to impact the people on this call as much as it will the more average people in the industry, the people who haven't stepped up and educated themselves and provided real value to the consumer. They're going to get washed out, and it'll clean the industry. But the people like you guys that are on this call that have already raised the bar for yourself, and you're either cross-trained or you're beginning to cross-train, where you have an investment solution, you have a brokerage solution, you have a creative financing solution, and you're very people-focused, you have nothing to worry about. These folks are just going to make you look better.
Yeah, thank you. You know, again, this was meant, I guess, more as just kind of an ongoing topic of conversation. Yeah, thank you for giving the details of David. I think he's probably my biggest go-to, you know, as far as how all this is working, and it remains to be seen here in Los Angeles in general. But I thought it was very interesting, you know, their model, like Zillow's model. So it's not so much just iBuyer or Premier Agent, but for anybody who's on this call who is an agent, please definitely look into that, because they're going kind of all in on a very risky, pivotal move. So it'll be interesting to see.
One of the interesting impacts that we're already seeing, so EXP just announced they have a program. So they're connecting their agents with a training program, and anyone who takes that training program then has the ability to offer a cash offer in addition to their brokerage service. So they're smart enough that they're empowering their own agents to become iBuyers, to become what we teach people. You know, we're teaching you guys to kind of take it on yourself. They're doing it from a top-down approach of, we're going to bring this as a tool so we can compete with iBuyers. Compass is another brokerage that has pretty much launched this, or they're in the process of launching this. So it's already forcing innovation in the industry, which provides more value and more options to the consumers. I see it as a really positive thing, because I find the real estate industry is so self-centered at times. We're so focused on, this impacts me and the way I like to do things, and I've always done it this way. But for me, I want to focus the value on the consumer, and the iBuyers have done that. Like, they've forced people to focus on consumer value versus getting fat and happy with brokerage commissions like they always have. So I see it as a really positive thing, because it's just going to force us all to have sharper axes and be more professional.
Yeah, I agree. So thanks. I just want to bring it up as, like, if anybody else, you know, you see in all the leads, specifically probate, if this has affected them or not, but it sounds like it's a positive for now, you know, and David really taken that on. Thank you for sharing.
I don't have a single negative story. That just, you know, strong people will always prevail, and like, I can't point to anyone who's been beat out. And I have friends who are launching brand new wholesaling businesses in Tampa and Charlotte, and within a week they've been able to put checks in the bank. And those are two of the first iBuyer, or well, Tampa wasn't one of the first, but it's recently become like, you know, the proving ground for all of them. So even if you're a brand new wholesaler that's just breaking into the market, you can break in just as easily now as well, maybe not just as easily, but if you provide real value, you can break into those iBuyer markets as a brand new wholesaler. I've watched it happen over the last 2 years.
The only thing, I also add this as well, and this is just something always to remember, that there are always going to be opportunities in the marketplace where someone comes along with a new mousetrap and it gets traction, and they're going to spend a lot of money to do what they're doing. And part of your job and the job of the people who are trying to do and accomplish the things that we're doing to help you learn to do is that you're adding value that they're not going to add. And your job is to differentiate that. When you have the opportunity to talk to people, you need to clearly differentiate what you're offering versus what they're offering, and what the pitfalls are of, you know, working with a machine and not working with a machine. And Chad kind of started with the discussion about, you know, the Carfax approach or Carvana and those kinds of things. Great ideas, cool, great marketing, and certainly a lot of people are you know, going to respond to that. But the traditional automobile dealer, the guy who's selling cars, I've got a buddy in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and he had the same kinds of issues. He was dealing with Carfax. He's looking at that sort of stuff. And what he realized is a certain kind of buyer he's not going to get anymore because they may move to that model. So he just focused all his energy on the people that aren't going to move there and doubled down on the advertising that he was doing to reach those people. And those are the things we're going to help you guys figure out how to go do to combat that going forward. And that's, you know, part of the value we bring to the game.
Yeah, I was going to add also.
Yeah.
I was going to add also. One of my original mentors used to tell me that, you know, people love to buy, they hate to be sold. They love options, they don't like to be told what to do, and that really is true. Any model that you know, no matter how shiny it seems or, you know, attractive, any other model or person that provides one solution is always going to be pretty easy to be beat by somebody who provides multiple solutions. Just giving them multiple solutions enables them to do what they want to do, which is, you know, choose among, they want to have options. And there's just a trust factor with somebody like you that comes along and doesn't tell them what to do but gives them options. So the other thing I was going to say, I think probate will be affected by this, but will probably be much less so than FSBOs or expireds, or just because of the exposure. As much as probate, you know, has become a bit more competitive since we've been doing it, these people still are not they're not as accessible, you know, to these type of offers, I don't think, as your average deal that you're going to run into, you know, in FSBOs or expires and other lead sources. So anyway, not a bad thing, but you always pose good questions. We appreciate it, Renee. You really do. You come with interesting topics every week. So good topic for discussion to get ahead of it.
Yeah, like kind of remains to be seen. Yeah, I'm just on that note, if nobody else knows what I'm really talking about in terms of iBuyer, and it's not just iBuyer, but what Zillow is doing is like basically shutting down their purchasing lead systems and then only going to be offering those leads to like top premier agents. So I see that as another level playing ground. So for an agent who is spending, you know, $40,000 a month on Zillow leads, as a single agent, you can still possibly get your name in the pool. So it sounds like they're trying to do some level playing field as well. Just really interesting, you know, stuff that's going on in the real estate arena that's not necessarily probate, but just keep the conversation going. So
sure.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. We have 4 more in the queue, guys. We have room for more. Next 10 minutes or so, we'll leave the queue open. Just hit *6 and hit 1, and you can get in there and have your question addressed or your story heard. Next up is phone number ending in 4512. You're up next.
Hey, guys. It's Richard in Birmingham. Been a while. How y'all doing?
Great, Richard. Good to have you back. Where you been?
I've been out there working.
Good.
To do some business. And, hey, it pays off because last Friday, for the ones, your newer ones, of course, I've been with you guys since February. Hey, last Friday, I had a boom, 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 3 back-to-backs within probably an hour and 45 minutes of come list me. And
nice.
Wow.
Oh, I know. And I think I told Chad the first time, or when I talked with him in the mastery class, that, I can, of course, I've done it long enough to see, I'm just waiting for the month where, I get 6, 7, or 8 of those to do it. But, hey, but on the, y'all were talking about the iBuyers, though, here in the Birmingham area, they're getting a lot of negative publicity. I mean, people who used them, and it's just, so it's kind of, they really just haven't been no effect on us at all.
Yeah. And that's when you look at the fine print, or when you look at the settlement statement, the fees and what they don't call a commission, or they don't call, a price discount, when it all shakes out, it's not exactly, at the end of the process, it's not exactly what's presented on the front end that makes it seem so attractive. And that's where they've been getting beat up. Like, their gross offer is attractive as hell, but when you get to the net proceeds of the sale, you're like, wait a minute, we're 30% short here. So and for a typical wholesaler, that's pretty easy to compete against that. And it's certainly easy to compete against that as a broker.
Yeah, and what happened on one of the first ones, it's a local realtor, and then her, of course, she was going to thought she was going to get the listing, and ended up the seller went with the iBuyer, and then after she called them back, and after everything, said, I wish I'd went with you, and then she said, well, send me over and let me look what they did. Of course, and like you said though, Chad, man, it was it was terrible with all the fees that they add in and everything. So she would have been a lot better off just going ahead and doing the 5 or 6% on the listing side. She would have probably $10 or $12,000 more. She would have netted out of that. So, but yeah, it's not affected us in any way. And but no, on the one of the callbacks, and I do have one question before I get off. But on the we talked about follow up quite a bit, and that was probably one of my weakest things years ago. But one of those the come list me calls I got last Friday was from a guy in Georgia, and lo and behold, it was my first set of leads I got back in February, and I've been following up with him for about ever since February, for every 2 or 3 weeks. And finally, out of the blue, now he didn't give me a call, he emailed me and he said, hey, he said, you're not going away, so I'm coming over to Alabama. He lives in Georgia. Next week on Friday, can you meet with me? And I said, of course, that's why I've been calling you all this time. And so, it ended up getting him on that one. So, but hey, follow-up does pay off.
That's awesome.
I'm curious. You had 3 in one day. Was that following an aggressive prospecting day, or was that following, like, what did you send a mailer first, or why did it happen all of a sudden?
Now his was a follow-up, and the other 2, believe it or not, the mailers had just gone out, and of course I do it just like y'all, just like you suggested. The letters go out, and then it just all depends. If I'm antsy, I'll go ahead and call them before I get my letter in the mail, which tells me they've gotten theirs. If I get antsy, I'll just go ahead and call them. But the other 2 was just the flyers or the mailers. The first ones had just hit their mailbox, and boom, boom. They called me as soon as they got it. They said, hey, this is exactly what.
You had two brand new come list me's off direct mail, and one that was 8 months old off a follow-up call.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
I know. I'm just waiting for that one when I get 7 or 8 of those in 1 month. So anyway, so it does work.
So I think I told you I had 5 on a Thursday. I sent out. It was 2 months. It was. Anyways, I sent out a letter and followed it with a ringless voicemail. Got 5 come list me's on one Thursday afternoon, and you talk about a busy Friday.
Yeah, I was driving. I was going to, matter of fact, for a listing appointment when that happened, and of course I was driving down in a suburb here in Birmingham, and so the first one called, and I said, hey, that's great, and I was starting to pull out of the parking lot, and then I got another ring. And so it was another one, and I said, I'm doing something right today. and then after I went to my other one, then lo and behold, I got the third one. So, but it pays off. And so, hey, but my question, all right, how can I find out? I just got through calling a personal representative, and she kind of wanted to shut me down, and So, of course, and I always ask at the end, I said, well, if you don't mind me asking, I said, who's your case, your probate case, what lawyer is handling that for you? And she said, well, I don't know you and I never met you. I really don't want to tell you. And I said, well, I said, hey, I said, I'll just contact him and so, I'm interested in the property or I might have a client. She still wouldn't give it to me. So on a lot of my links, it doesn't have the attorney's name. So how can I, instead of going to the courthouse, is there a way that I can search and pull up, who the attorney is on those, on the docket or whatever?
Not without going there. So, if an attorney is assigned when the petitioner files the petition, that's when we get the information. What we find is general behavior is about 20% of people either think they don't need an attorney or just simply think they can't afford it. So they jump in as a petitioner, that's pro se, and then once they're appointed, it's pro per. But I would say 90% of those will eventually end up hiring attorneys, and it sounds like this one may have already. Because what you're saying is there's no attorney in your data in your My Probate leads, right?
Probably 95% of mine doesn't come with with an attorney's name with it. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So you might be in a market like me. So I'm in Roanoke, Virginia. I've never had a single lead with a probate or with a probate attorney, and I've done, I don't know how many of these, and none of the families have ever even asked about using an attorney because it's just not common in my market. So do you know if it's common in your market? Like, do most people use attorneys?
Oh, yeah, everybody, because even the ones that I don't show an attorney, when I talk with them, and it does, and then they do, and then because a lot of them will go ahead and tell me who the attorney is, and but yeah, probably 95% of mine doesn't have the attorney listed, but they do have an attorney, so I don't know why. It's like you said, they might have got one later, whatever, but I call them right off the bat, though. So, but anyway, I'm just going to have to kind of figure that out, or some of my daughter says she's with me now, I'll let her go do it. But one thing I am going to start doing, and I haven't done it yet, I am going to start, as a matter of fact, next Friday, if I already start, I got a list of attorneys. I am going to start trying to go see them on Thursday or Fridays and just to, introduce myself. That's one thing that I know I need to do to go ahead and take this to the next level. No doubt about that.
Yes, sir. Especially with the experience you're getting, you're getting, like, you need to be out there letting them know about it. Yeah. Like, here's the truth, man. If you're attracting 3 come list me calls off of one day of marketing effort, the community is responding to your value. So you're going to find the same result from the attorneys. Like they're going to see the same amount of value. Like, you're doing it right. I mean, that's attracting business is what shows you if you're doing things correctly, right?
Yeah.
So
well,
the attorneys are going to embrace you. Like, I think you'll be shocked at how easy it is.
Yeah, well, and I'm not bashful. I mean, they can't shoot you. So hey, just like calling, I'll knock on doors. I used to do it a long time ago in insurance, so it's not a big deal with me. But for the people who, like you said, you guys, got it laid out and everything for everybody, and I did. Of course, when I came in, I followed everything you guys did, and it's, it pays off if you just got to be patient and be persistent about it, and it'll. Hey, if they'll stick with it, they'll get just like I did on Friday. That was my first 3 come list me calls in one day within an hour and 45 minutes. So,
and how much revenue does that represent?
Huh? Do I?
How much revenue will that represent for you?
Well, the 2 of them is between $250,000 and $300,000, and the other one is, of course, it's a smaller one, and so looking probably at about. I would say right at $600,000 total in all of them. So that times probably going to end up being about $17,000 to $22,000.
That's about. Let's see. You're making about $10,000 an hour.
ROI, isn't it?
Pretty good.
All right, guys.
Good job. Good job, buddy. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Jim, I want to just take a minute to underscore, because it's such a good example of the reason we tell you to spread your campaign out So what he experienced, on a brand new list, he was able to send out, and I should have asked the lead counts, let's just say, but one county, he sent that out and got 2 come list me's, but he continued to stick with that one from his very first month, 8 months back, and he's still getting business off that very first list. So the longer you can spread your marketing effort out, the longer, if you stick with everybody until you've spoken to them or they've said no, like there's business in this list for at least 24 months. But the reason we tell you to get your letters out the minute your leads come in is what you just heard. Like there are people that are super motivated and ready to go today. There are people who will wait 2 or 3 months before they even answer anyone's phone call, and there's some that will procrastinate for a year, and eventually they'll have their own emotional breakthrough, and they'll pick the person they think is the least selfish and the most helpful to them, and your letters will convey that. So just for anyone, especially if this is your first call, if you're new, we recommend a minimum of a 3-month marketing campaign. But a maximum is you should be following up for at least 2 years if you really want to get every bit of return out of this that you can.
Yep.
Yeah, and I used to shut off my letters when they tell me they wasn't interested in them, but now I don't call them as much, but I do regardless. I send out 3 letters is going out to every who, like this month I had 99 leads or whatever, and but I used to cut them off after they say they're not interested or whatever, blah blah blah. But now I don't even. I send out 3 letters to everybody, and I never cut them off. So that's
exactly what I did too, and I would get usually 2 per 100. So for every 100 letters sent, I could pretty much count on 2 come list me calls. And I would order, if I had 100 leads, I would send 100 letters, 100 letters 3 times. And it cost me more money, but I had more surface area. And you're exactly right. The people who say, I don't need your help, I got this handled, or we're going to keep the house, when they find out Cousin Jerry can't qualify for financing and buy the house from the estate, and they don't have a contingency plan, you're their first phone call.
Yeah.
Because when their plan folds, you're the contingency.
Well, exactly. Well, who came up with this? Y'all are smart guys, so hey, I'll have to hand it to you, all 3 of you, I guess.
Well, thank you. There's actually 4, but yeah, 3 of us are smart. The other guy, I'm not saying who it is. I'm not saying who it is, but
I think it's
just
obvious.
kidding. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thanks a lot. We got 6 more in the queue, so I can't tell you how much I appreciate your comments. What I was going to kind of echo what Chad said. You have so much in common, our successful people. It reminds me so much of Dennis last week. The things you guys both did right, you were pleasantly persistent, you were aggressive on follow-up, and probably the most important thing, you hung around long enough to let this work for you. You didn't try it a month or 2 and say, I'm going to move on to the next shiny object. So congratulations. I'm going to go ahead and close the queue now, guys. We have 7 in the queue, and that should take us up to the hour nicely. Next up is another frequent contributor, phone number 7009. You're up next.
This is Nate. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah. Hey, Nate. How's it going?
Oh, hey.
Yes, sir.
Okay. It's going well. The queue said the last number of 7099, and that's not mine. So I was like, I don't know if it was me. Anyway, okay. Hello, gentlemen.
I'm sorry. You're 7009, correct?
I'm 2745.
Huh. Okay. And this is Will?
No, this is Nate.
Okay, Nate. I'm not sure how you snuck in there, but good job. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think you just self-identified as the weak link, Jim.
No, I'm looking. It's a conference system. It's not me. Go ahead.
Interesting. Hello. So quick question for you guys. First off, thanks for these calls. This is really interesting. The Renee's question, and I believe it was Tim, that really cool, really informative. Thank you for providing that value. But I had 2 quick questions for you. First off, if the creditor's claims are more than the property value, where do we stand in the payouts? Like the commission-wise. Does that make sense?
Sure. So typically the real estate's going to close before, and the net proceeds from the real estate will be deposited into the estate's bank account, and then the general debts will be settled. So the real estate commission will come in on the closing statement. You'll be paid, and then that'll come out of the gross. So the net goes to the estate. Now, if assuming that, you liquidate all the assets and there's more liabilities than there are assets, then at that point the judge is going to treat it about like a bankruptcy proceeding. So you'll say, all right, you can't get blood from a turnip. We have X number of dollars and X number of liabilities. You guys are going to be sidelined. You'll accept this. You'll take this. You'll take this. We're settled. But
Okay.
You'll get paid. You've provided the service and you'll be paid on above the line. So it won't affect your pay.
Okay, perfect. That's where, because we have a few leads in there right now that situation has come up, and I didn't want to start, going in depth on marketing and trying to reach out to them and go through that process if, we weren't even going to get paid in the end. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And it sounds like you haven't been through mastery. I mean, there's even ways, like we teach, if you learn about creative financing, you can even take homes with marginal equity and create, you can sell it on terms versus negotiating price, and you can sell things without commissions for higher dollar amounts without negotiating to maximize the equity for the family and still get yourself paid. So don't ever shy away from one. Since I've kind of got, since I educated myself, there's never a single family deal that comes across my desk. If you have a motivation to sell and they own real estate, you can always help them and make money. And sometimes it's a short sale, sometimes it's creative financing, sometimes it's brokerage, cash offer, but there's always a way to put it together. So don't shy away from any of them. Don't try to guess. Just get out there and have the conversations. If you're having trouble putting it together, call support and tell them you have an emergency, you need to talk to me, and we'll figure out a way to put it together. There's always a way.
Okay, I got you. And then I also had another quote. First off, thank you for answering that. That definitely clears things up for me big time. How do you approach and best handle fiduciaries?
So the same way as attorneys, like you really need to show them how your business model complements theirs and how you can, they have even more responsibility than attorneys, right? Attorneys have a legal responsibility. They have the responsibility of a personal representative. What's different, they don't have the emotional attachment to the situation that the personal representative does. So for them, it's a B2B, and the quicker they get it done, the quicker they get paid, right? So you need to show them ways that you can maximize the equity, which will help them get paid more for what they do. So you can maximize the equity and shorten the timeline. And any way you can show them that that's possible is a huge benefit to their business. The other thing you want to show them is that you're not just a real estate professional, that you're a probate specialist, a probate expert, whatever you want to label yourself. Don't paint yourself into the corner of just being an investor or a realtor, because they've already formed an opinion of what that person's value is, and you don't want to paint that same picture. Your value is very different because you bring a lot of pre-vetted vendors to the table that can help them shed some of that responsibility and work. So just be careful how you label yourself, but approach them and show them, listen, basically our service is designed to help families get, we turn mountains into molehills, and we can do that. We can do that for you, but I expect with you and I working together, it would be even more efficient because we're not emotionally involved. We just want to get this done and do what's right for the estate. So have you got 5 minutes to kind of chat for a bit? And just jump right in with them. But it's just kind of the same value points that you would share with the personal rep and the attorney, just showing them how, you can get more money for them in less time is going to really get their attention.
Gotcha. Okay.
And
well, thank you.
It sounds like you're in California, right?
You there?
Hello. Yes. Good
No, I'm sorry. I think we lost the last person. And actually, it was kind of interesting. His phone number changed several times while he was on with us, so I suspect he was on some kind of a voice
thing. Yeah, it's a
Halloween. Well, yeah, exactly. Well, sorry about that. We lost you, but we hope we answered your question. You're up next. Go ahead.
Yes. So this is Janelle calling from the Texas Hill Country, and I'm kind of new to the program. And I have a lot of the people that came through my leads are surviving spouses that are staying in the home, and I'm looking for sound bites and ways to approach them that, I'm kind of getting, I'm sorry, I have an attorney, don't ever call me again kind of thing. I'm like, well, then I need to up my game here and come up with better sound bites and ways to approach them than what I'm doing right now. So any thoughts on that, or anybody had any success with how to work that?
Sure. Have you seen the tips from the trainer video about calling surviving spouses?
Yes. Yes. There was an initial one that I saw in the queue that I listened to, and I remember I was on a few calls back, and there was some sound bites to really quickly introducing yourselves, and I'm reaching out to you because I'd sent you this letter, and I need help.
Okay, so there's a video specifically about this that I made. The very first probate deal that I did, the one that kind of inspired me to look into this and build it as a niche, was that situation. It was a surviving spouse, and her exact words were, "I will never sell this damn house. Don't you ever send me another letter." And me, being a weak salesperson, I apologized and hung up the phone and took her off my list. Notice I labeled myself as weak, because 2 months later, her daughter called me frantic. Her mom was getting ready to she had a stroke the night before, was getting discharged from the hospital, and didn't have enough cash to get into the rehab facility. So she didn't have a contingency plan. And what you need to realize is 78.8% of senior citizens who are surveyed by the nursing home industry, their only plan is to die at home. 20% of Americans actually die at home, 60% in hospitals, 20% in nursing homes. The average senior citizen right now, and this is also a nursing home industry study from a development feasibility study, but the average senior citizen has about $27,000 in liquid assets. So when things don't go as planned, meaning I'm going to live to be 95 and live happily right here, when there's a change in health or a change in income, or a weather event, like you never know, but whatever it is, if they get surprised, then they're stuck, and then they're panicked, and then they're super motivated. So it's why you should always at least make contact with the surviving spouse. Don't try to go straight for an appointment or try to get them to sell the real estate. What you first need to do is be a good advisor. So you need to get engagement and get them talking, and start to hear, by asking if there's any way you can help. Start to hear if there's any pain points right now. If not, just put them on a follow-up for a couple months down the road, and maybe you start dropping them letters and saying, listen, here's a story of how we've helped other folks. Like the common services, like a lot of times, I talked about this with someone yesterday from Oregon. What we don't, a lot of times I think people don't consider is most of these folks are retired, and they're usually on Social Security. So they have 2 Social Security checks coming in each month. Well, all of a sudden one disappears. So now they have half the income and twice the responsibility inside and outside the home for maintenance. So they might not feel it in the first month or the second month or the third month, or maybe not until next May, when the grass really starts getting tall again and the shrubs are out of control and the gutters are full, and all these maintenance problems become apparent. So if you can reach out with a really empathetic, soft touch, and let them know that there's a team here in the community built to help families who are going through this. And that doesn't mean you have to sell anything. It means we can help you find a more suitable living situation. And for some folks, that simply means getting connected to social services that will help you regain some of what was lost. For other folks, that means using a specialized moving company to get most of your stuff into climatized storage, and then we get you into a senior community where you can have a more comfortable life. And for others, that means we don't do anything, and yada, yada, yada. Just give them some examples and show them, like, you're not trying to kick them out of their house and make some money. Just reach out and say, I want you to know there's someone here in the community that can help, and see if there's any needs that you have right now, that we can help in many different ways. And sometimes they're going to be so raw that they won't engage with you, and just don't take that personal. You need to understand, like, you're dealing with someone who's really hurting, and their ego is going to protect them. And you just don't take it personal. They don't really hate you. They don't think those things about you. When they really need someone, you'll be their first phone call if you just try to provide value to them any way you can. And you've got to get engagement. So you can say, well, when they say things like, my attorney has it handled, or I don't need any help, you can say, you know, what's really interesting, ma'am, is that's what some of my best clients have said to me. And once they gave me a chance to really understand their situation and find out that I really could help them, we've had a relationship ever since. So I hope that can be you and I. I'll give you a call back in 2 weeks, and maybe we can have a different conversation. And then just back off and call him back in 2 weeks. And just like, you know, the first caller, the guy made a joke about how persistent he was. He said, well, I guess you're not going to go away, so I'll meet with you when I come to town next week. And if you just follow up with a really soft, empathetic approach every once in a while, eventually they're going to need help. They're going to need a lawn care company. They're going to need a roofer. They're going to need social services. They're going to need who knows what. But if they understand all the things that you can do, there's a good chance the second they have that need, you'll be the first one to hear from them.
So do you have a progression of letters for surviving spouses? Because I haven't found one. I kind of wrote the first one.
No, and it's something that a lot of people request. I never found it necessary. So I've worked with a ton of surviving spouses, and most of them female. But the letter that I was using was just the probate options letter, the really simple one with like 4 or 5 bullet points. And you know, a lot of the surviving spouses that I worked with, it would be anywhere from a year to 2 years before they would make the move. But when they called, they were ready to go. They had read my letter. They had been to the website. They knew who I was, and it was literally a come list me call. And it took them the time to have the emotional breakthrough, and maybe another grandchild was born. Maybe they got into a tough financial spot. There's different stories, but they responded to me when they were ready. And it was just off of a generic probate options letter. It wasn't anything specific. So I hear you. Like we have had people ask for those. We just simply haven't had the time to test them out. But we are working on, you know, some additional copywriting and more letters for you guys for these specialized situations. So that's one that's in queue.
Okay.
All right.
We'll look forward to that, just to make sure that we're, you know, getting maximum benefit from if you do get them on the phone, because there's so few that you can, you know.
Sure.
Yep.
And if you haven't seen that video, or if anyone else listening hasn't, if you go to alltheleads.com, in the top right, you'll see a global search bar. Just put in surviving spouse, and it should be probably the only result. It might be, there's probably some role play calls that will come up too, but there's a video that will kind of walk you through, you know, what we just talked about.
Perfect. We have 4 more in the queue. That should take us up to the hour. Did you want to say something, Tim?
Actually, I got put
Oh,
on
go ahead. I'm sorry. You're up next. Go ahead. I thought that was my partner, Tim. You're up next. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you. My name is Jason. I'm new at this entire thing, as in real estate investing. Came across a property on Zillow, and that it fit our price range. We're trying to get a rehab started or a wholesale, but ended up talking to the realtor. She's not very savvy as far as me talking to other realtors who are investor friendly as well. So kind of went in there, looked at the property. Turns out that it's a probate, and the father just passed. There were even like cards in the house, you know, when I walked in and things like that. I saw the seller for a quick second, said hi to her. The property is listed at $300,000. It needs a lot of work, something I don't want to take on right now as a beginner, but she is living in there. So the daughter does stay in there, but she put it on right away. She's handling all her estate stuff. And I'm just trying to figure out what to do here, because there's a lot of clutter in the house, a lot of stuff that needs to be trashed. The realtor is not super experienced, from my opinion, so she doesn't even know a lot of the questions I've been asking her. So my partners and I, our strategy here is to wholesale it, because there's a lot of motivation. The mortgage left on this is about $60,000 to $70,000, according to the realtor, and you know the ask is $300,000. It actually dropped $20,000 after I talked to her. However, it is a listed property. I know you guys kind of mainly focus on speaking to sellers, which, you know, is obviously better. So just kind of want to get a feel of, you know, what you guys would kind of do in this situation here.
So what's your strategy? As a double close or an assignment of contract?
I think assignment of contract would be better because it would be cleaner for us at this time. Double close would probably require a little more funds to get going, and at that point we would probably prehab it. We would probably get all this junk out and put it in a position where it's attractive to some of the bigger buyers that we've met at meetups and things like that.
Well, I think that's what you should do, because if you're working with a realtor who's not savvy, she's not going to understand the assignment of contract. She's going to run to her broker and say that the buyer's doing something illegal and draw a bunch of attention and freak the seller out. And then you're going to be there just trying to justify it at the table. And if your contract doesn't say explicitly that it was fully assignable, then you may have a bigger fight on your hands. So I'd say you have two options. One is you need to build a strong relationship with the listing agent and educate her and be completely transparent about your intentions and that you're not going to be the one sitting at the closing table. Or option two, pull down some private money, close on this thing, prehab it, and put it back out there. You're going to make more money. You're going to take more risk, but you're going to make more money and you're going to have a way cleaner deal, and you'll have more control if you go with option two.
Okay. All right.
Now,
yeah, I think
the disclaimer I'll put on that is if the valuation really dropped $20,000 while you've been looking at this house, make sure you're not catching a falling knife. It might be one to walk away from. Like, I would look very closely at did the price really drop at that in this price range? Because what's the median in your market? What's the median price?
Well, so I'm in the DC area, so it's quite high. And there's an extension done to this property that makes it almost like a third, almost a half as bigger as anything around, because it's like, you know, one of those townhouses. So there's a lot of value from a square foot percentage. There's a lot of work needed. I think our repair estimate's coming out to be like $70K probably, maybe more. But that being said, you know, I probably have to get it inspected. As far as structural issues and leaks and things like that. Doesn't seem to be any of that, but I would definitely take precaution before moving forward, of course.
What's your offer?
I think our offer has to be closer to 200 in order for us to make this a good ROI for our buyers. For us, you know, we're okay with taking like a 10 to 15% ROI because we're new and we just want to kind of get a profitable deal in our pockets, but we also don't want to work this hard and this hard of a job for that type of money either. You know, we'd rather go after easier rehab. So if someone's willing to take the risk on this bigger house and lucrative returns, you know, so be it.
And you have capital on deck, or would you need to use private money?
We've been talking to hard money, and we have access to some private money, but it depends on the deal, you know. So if it seems like a riskier situation, it's not as easy. Like I said, we've only just started. We're talking to a lot of people, but we do have hard money. So is there anything you could tell me around that as far as using hard money? I
would stay away from it on a deal like this because you're in and out so quick, and you're not doing the full project. So hard money is going to cost you 2 to 4 points up front. You're going to pay for an appraisal. It's going to slow you down, and then you're going to be paying 8 to 12% interest on it. So I would recommend, if you have private money lenders, like just draw down 0.8%, and I'm going to pay you a flat fee, you know, because we're going to be in and out of this in 60 days rather than pay you 8% interest for, you know, for 2 months. I'll give you $2,000 for this, or whatever that is. Like, give them a flat fee that's really attractive.
Okay.
And then, you know, obviously, I mean, you would be closing on it. They would record a first, and then you go in, clean the house out, get it back on the market, and you're probably 60 days, like end to end on this. You should be out of it in 2 months. And quite honestly, that's pretty good timing. I mean, in Virginia, even though we have cold winters, I can show you this, like in Roanoke, I can drive prices higher in the winter than I can in the quote buying season, because there's way less inventory on the market. And a lot of people sideline themselves from looking at houses from like Thanksgiving all the way through Christmas, but all those motivating factors for them wanting to move or are there. So you might find an end buyer that would be willing to fix it up, which in that market, there are people that have lots of cash that aren't finding the $600,000 house that they want. So they'll hold off selling their home right now, buy this one at a discount, get their contractors in there and make it exactly what they want, and then eventually move into it and sell their other one. Your other most likely buyer obviously is a rehabber who's looking at inventory now, projects now for inventory in the second quarter. So if it's a big house, you can likely sell this to a flipper who's looking for a deal for the buying season. So your timing's good, but I think your best play is pull down private money or use transactional funding. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, I am. Correct. Yeah.
So I wouldn't recommend hard money on this deal because it's going to eat up so much of your profit. I would recommend at most transactional lending, but ideally find yourself someone who will take a flat fee and use their money, give them a first, and they'll be out of it in 60 days, and make a good first impression with that lender by saying, hey, 8% is not enough. We're just going to throw you $2,500 and you'll be protected. And then I would probably sell this one back on MLS. We called them wholetails, where you basically clean them out, take really good photography, like good bright photography, and you can usually sell them at 80 to 90 cents on the dollar like that, as is, not ARV.
Okay.
All right,
Understood.
sir. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah.
We have three more in the queue. All right, appreciate it. Next up is phone number ending in 2500.
Hi, this is Gary. I'm calling from Florida.
Hey, Gary.
I've been buying leads since March or April, something like that. I was doing the ISA group that y'all have to call leads, and then I decided that I wanted my own ISA person because I have other leads that I wanted them to work. I'm a realtor and a general contractor and an investor. So I decided I hired somebody that was going to be my ISA person. I quit using y'all's ISA group, and then that person didn't work out. So all of a sudden, I went for a couple of months without anybody making any calls. So about, I guess, a month ago, maybe 3 weeks to a month ago, I get a phone call from a guy in California that his dad had passed away in a condo, or not in the condo, but he owned a condo in a beautiful community, and he had another condo that he used for income that he had paid cash for. And when he passed, the son was on the title, so he was able to sell it. And he's a CPA in California, and he's very busy. He says, I've been screwing around with the people that the HOA manager recommended. It's taken them 6 weeks, to paint the unit and put carpet in 3 rooms. And I'm tired of all the delays and additional expense. Every time I turn around, they're wanting more money. He says, I got your letter. What I found interesting about your letter is that you said that you not only would help market the property for the best possible sale, but you are also a general contractor and you can help with repairs and renovations. And I said, that's right. And he said, well, let me tell you where I am. He says, I'm ready to change, because they've only gotten 1 unit ready, and they're telling me that there's going to be some additional delays. So I need somebody that can take it over, figure it out, and get whatever needs to be done so that we can get it on the market. He says, my goal is to sell at least 1 unit by the end of the year. So I told him that I'd take a look at it and come up with a plan. And he said, well, I've got one thing I need to tell you about. There's a tenant in the unit that my dad did not live in that hasn't paid any rent for the last 5 months. You know, they keep giving me song and dance as to why they can't pay the rent, and they send me a little bit of money here and a little bit of money there, and I don't have time for this. You know, quite frankly, it's too big of a distraction for the amount of money that's involved. And he said, look, I need you to recommend an attorney that can evict these people, and if there's any possibility of getting more money out of them, that's great. If not, I just want them evicted. I want the property fixed up, and I want it put on the market. So I said, well, I don't think you need an attorney. I said, I'll go on the county website, pull up the eviction forms, and I'll email them to you. You fill them out, send them back to me, and then we'll come up with a plan. So I did that night. He sent them back to me the next day. I called him and I said, I want to handle this as professionally as I possibly can. And I think the more professional I am, the quicker we're going to see some results. And he said, well, whatever you think. So I took the package that he had sent me, and I drove over to the property, knocked on the door one afternoon. Gentleman comes to the door, and I said, hi, my name is Gary. I'm probably the nicest guy that you've ever met. And I just wanted to tell you that I really hate to be the one to have to tell you this, but my client has hired me to sell this property. And I'm here to talk to you about how I can help you to find another place. I'm a realtor. I'll be glad to set up a search, help you find a place. You know, we can work this out. And if that works for you, then it's going to be a pleasant experience. And the guy basically slammed the door in my face. So I went back. You know, I left, and 3 days later, I decided that since they hadn't bothered to call me, that they didn't want to play nice. So I pulled out the 3-day notice, and I drove over to the property at 8 o'clock in the morning. The wife was out walking the dogs. I walked up to her, and I said, hi, my name's Gary Turner. I spoke to your husband the other day. She said, yeah, I know who you are. And I said, well, I gave y'all plenty of opportunity to call me to see if I could help you find a place. But since that doesn't seem to be, you know, a good fit for y'all, here's your 3-day notice. And of course, she freaked out and ran back inside the house with the dogs. And the next day, I get a phone call from her, and she says, we found a place. We'll be out by Thursday. The property will be cleaned Friday, and then it's yours to do whatever you need to do. So Friday afternoon, I went over to the property. I took some people with me that, you know, that do labor type stuff. They had kicked the door in and damaged the door, the jamb, and the casing, and the place had not been cleaned in years. As a matter of fact, I don't think the air conditioning filter was ever changed. So I called my client. I said, they're out. Here's a list of things that need to be done. I'll send you something in writing. And, you know, you have a choice. You can either pay me now or pay me later. But if you pay me later, I'm going to tack on 1% for sales commission for taking the risk. He said, no, I'll send you a check, and you can get this. You can go ahead and start. And I said, well, we've already started. He says, well, I like the way you think. And I said, well, it's got to be done. And I knew that we would work something out. So the first thing that needed to be done was to secure the door. So we've replaced the door, the jamb, the casing, and this was on a Saturday. And Monday morning, the painters are going to be in there painting the unit, and then by the end of next week, we're going to be on the market. So what happened was I had to wait on the photographer, and, you know, the cleaning had to be a deep cleaning, so it took longer than normal. And in the meantime, the other unit, they had removed the scaffolding from the outside of the building so I could send the photographer to do both. I put them on the market a week ago, last Monday, and within 2 days I had sold one, and within 4 days I'd sold the other. So needless to say, my client is like, where the hell were you when the property manager recommended these other yahoos? And I said, well, I don't know.
I was in the mailbox. I was in your voicemail. Where the hell were you?
Well, it wasn't in his voicemail because I quit calling. But what happened was when he got frustrated enough, he went back to his file and he found my letter and made that call.
Oh, great story. We have 2 more in the queue. I don't want to rush it because Chad, if you could summarize what he did right there, it was a lot.
No, I mean what you did right from the get-go is you provide real options that translates to real value. Like, you were able to do what he couldn't do from afar over a matter of months. He's been struggling with this, and it took you a matter of you know, days to solve his biggest problems. And it would have probably taken him another 6 months of struggling through that. And just, you know, him accepting partial rents, if he would have tried to do the eviction from afar, he would have had a far bigger problem. I thought this story was going to take a different direction, because you've got someone who's not familiar with local laws accepting partial rents, which is an implied extension of their lease. And a lot of times that ends up in a courtroom for 6 or 8 months. So you stepped in, you were able to clear it out by giving them a voice and treating them fairly. You got them out, and you had the skill set to secure the property immediately. So it's, I mean, I'm not saying everybody on this call should be a contractor, but having if you're not, and you have a contractor that will come at your beck and call to do things like this, you can make a huge difference for the family. So,
that's great. Tim,
job.
You had a comment too, right?
Yeah, I'm just going to add, the cool part about this that you should remember also is that you've now got a great testimonial that, I'm assuming you have a website for what you're doing, and you got a great testimonial. You should probably sit down with this guy and at the least get it in writing from him, all the wonderful things that you did and how it worked, abbreviate it down a little bit, but even better, get a video testimonial. Just sit down and say, so Billy Bob, tell me a little bit about, you know, how it was before you got with me and how it is today. And, you know, just a good old homespun story like that goes a long way towards making major inroads with your people. And you got a very happy guy. He's probably never going to be happier than he is right now based on what you just said. You know, get him on tape, get it going, and get that testimonial.
I'll do it.
Great job. Thank you so much. And I think we got a competition for win of the week. We may have to have a double win of the week. Those are both great stories. We have 2 more in the queue, guys. We're going to go another 5 minutes or so, so we appreciate your patience. And next up is phone number ending in 2582. You're up next.
Hey, good morning. It's David Duncan. Quick question. I have a probate listing, and I went to your probate mastery, probably 3-4 months ago. And I brought the attorney to the transaction, and I'm now looking at, I want to buy the property. I've flipped quite a bit of property. So I was thinking of a strategy of where, since it's going to list at 6%. So what I would do is go to my broker and say, hey, I'm going to book in this deal. I'll forfeit the 2.5 that is going to be offered to the buyer's agent to secure the property at a lower price. So ultimately the estate will get the same amount. It's just a way to maybe conduct the transaction quicker than putting it on the market. It's at a pretty sweet price point of $550 for the neighborhood in general. But there's definitely some room for markup. I mean, for margin, you know, on a flip. So I've got a great relationship with the attorney who's involved. And we kind of surfaced this to her just to kind of give her a snapshot of this strategy. What's your feedback?
I would recommend, you have a good relationship with your broker?
Yes. Yep.
I would recommend like sit down with him or her and just say, listen, I want to buy this. So in the case that the seller is willing to accept my offer, you have one of two options here. One, I can move this listing over to you because you shouldn't represent yourself. If you're the listing agent, you shouldn't be the buyer. There's too much liability, possible liability there.
Okay.
So option one would be you move the listing over to your broker. You amend the listing contract, and only his name is on the listing, and then you enter the transaction as an unrepresented party as the buyer. Option two is you just cancel the listing agreement and sign a purchase agreement with the seller and move forward. If the broker still wants some money, pay him a finder's fee or pay him whatever they need. But if you have a good relationship with the broker, they know you're going to list that house with the brokerage on the disposition, which is going to be a much bigger commission, right? So if I was your broker, I would say just cancel the listing, get it under contract, and just shake my hand and make sure you list it with us on the disposition. I'll get paid then. And I would be more interested in seeing you be successful and making a bigger commission on the back end than I would holding you in an agreement and watching you create possible liability for me right now.
Okay. All right.
Makes sense.
I did surface this with the attorney just to kind of give her an overview. And I found the client. I brought the attorney to the deal. The executor, or she does have full letters of administration. There is some heirs involved, so it has to be, what the attorney said, well, would you still market the property for competitive bids? And I said, absolutely. I want to be full disclosure. It's really, the other piece is there's a reverse mortgage, which is just hitting its 1-year anniversary. So it would take them, 90 days or so to get it into foreclosure. So I think the attorney would be amenable to this in general, because she has to represent the estate to maximize the value, and it's in California, so all the rules and regulations and laws in this state.
Sure.
So
perfect.
It sounds you need to just some advice. You need to be more convincing and that it's a fair offer. Like when you approach the attorney and the seller, just go in with confidence and say, guys, listen, the more I've thought about this property, the more I want to actually make it my next project. And what I think is a fair offer is X. How do you feel about that? And show them the net numbers. So you won't be paying a commission. You won't be paying, show them everything they're going to save. Let them focus on the net, not the gross. And and show them that, getting it done faster now. Do they have full authority or limited authority?
Full.
Awesome.
Full authority.
So yeah, you can show them how they can save so much money, by not having it, exposed to the conventional market. They're going to save thousands in closing costs and holding costs. So focus on the net figure. And if you look in the using a net sheet to run the two scenarios side by side will really be helpful.
Okay, actually, I told the attorney I would do that so she could see the actual net numbers, so she could look at something in black and white. Okay. All right.
Perfect. Cool. All right. Well, longest call in a long time, but it's going to be a Renee sandwich. We started with Renee, and we're ending with you, Renee.
Really quick, I wanted to put out to the group, too, a little mastermind that I put on the Facebook page that's actually working. So if anybody's interested, please connect with me. But I did get in touch with Bill Gross, who's here in L.A., and went down to the probate court with him. He goes down about 4 days a week, so he was really instrumental in helping me, and that was just understand the process on the boots on the ground. And John Fraker and I had a nice long conversation. So I just wanted to inspire the group to stay connected and put your questions up on the board, because this is a great group of people. So please join me or just put your questions up on the board.
Couldn't agree more. Thank you. Great way to close the call, guys. Thank you. Our longest call in a long time, but I didn't even consider ending it. It was awesome. I want to thank all of you for taking this Halloween Eve to be here. I want to particularly thank the 10 people that actively participated. And I want to challenge each of you to, go out, take these ideas, put them into practice. I was going to say use the tricks you learned on this call and come back next week and let us know the treats that you derived from using them. How's that for a Halloween?
Waka waka.
Waka waka. Yeah. Make it a great holiday, guys. We will talk to you same time next Thursday. Take care.